This is a short screencast of the Human Service Issues syllabus for spring 2011. And again, please see my contact information. The best way to contact me is via email. Uh, that's certainly my preferred method of communication. And my fastest response time is via email. Telephone number is listed. Again, that telephone number goes to my office. And my Gtalk ID is listed, as well as my Skype ID. It's listed on the Moodle site. Office hours are Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, until 12 noon. Please keep in mind I do supervise a significant number of interns, human service interns, and I am frequently out of the office, especially mid-semester and at the end of the semester. Therefore, if you plan on visiting and making a special trip, even during the period of my office hours, please contact me in advance to make sure that I am available. This course meets on Tuesdays from 9:30 until 10:50. We will be meeting every week unless otherwise scheduled. The last day to withdraw without penalty is on April the 21st. Please make note of that date and read the appropriate and associated policies. Materials required include 3 items: the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the actual book. This book was on the New York Times bestseller and has been for many, many years. It's not a textbook. It's an actual trade book, meaning a paperback that can be found not only at the Forsyth Tech bookstore, but other bookstores such as Barnes & Noble and Amazon, Borders, even at Walmart occasionally. I've seen used copies of this text for 99 cents online. So again, it's extremely inexpensive. New copies tend to be about $20. The second requirement is the 7 Habits workbook. I do require, the workbook is required. Again, the workbook is a trade book, can be found in many bookstores, and is available for under $20. You do want to make sure that the workbook has been unwritten in and is fresh, because I do ask you to write in the workbooks. The third item is the 7 Habits audiobook, or CD. You may find a tape version, a cassette tape floating around, which is fine. But I do require the audio version of this book, generally the abridged version. And the bookstore should have this as well. And many students ask why have an audiobook too. I have found through experience and talking with students that listening to the abridged audiobook before we begin reading the actual 7 Habits book helps students see the big picture of the material. Just a word of warning, and I will say this again and again: the first couple of chapters of the 7 Habits book is extremely dense and heavy reading, and sometimes having a audio version is a bit easier to conceptualize. This course does not have any prerequisites. This is a 2-credit course, not a 3-credit course. Something to keep in mind. One of our learning outcomes is that students will gain a understanding of the importance of self-awareness and self-evaluation as a human services professional. So this is probably the most important thing that we can do, is to become knowledgeable about who we are, who we want to be, and how our past experiences impact future actions. Other items we will be working on based on the 7 Habits material is looking at differences and similarities between individuals in society, and how we see the world, and how we see ourselves, and what we believe, our values and principles impact the actions that we implement every day. We will be talking about how to personally be proactive and not reactive. That if we simply respond to the actions of others and allow others to make choices for us, that really is not an effective skill for professional development, and it certainly is not a skill that we want to teach or model our clients. Beginning with an end in mind is also important. The old adage, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know if you get there? Another way to look at it is what's your goals and objectives, not only short term, but long term. Putting first things first is another important skill. How do we prioritize? How do we begin to look at all the various roles and responsibilities in our lives? And how do we make sure that we place the appropriate level of importance on the appropriate roles and responsibilities that's most important to you, not what might be important for other people? And thinking win-win. Too many times we go into relationships or have activities in the work setting or work with clients who believe that when conflict occurs, it's either a win-lose situation, and someone has to leave the problem with a short end of the stick, so to speak. And sometimes, yes, some situations don't play out the way that we want it to. And no, we can't always win. But maybe if we spent more time acknowledging and thinking about what our ultimate goal is, and taking some time to see the perceptions and paradigms of other people, of the other party, it might be easier for us to meet in the middle and to negotiate the process out. Last but not least is how to understand first, then be understood. This is one of my favorite portions of this material, and one of my favorite quotes. We should seek to understand the other person first, then seek to be understood. If our main goal in life or in any communication is to ignore the other person that's sitting across the table from us, that conversation is not going to get very far. But if we seek to understand their perceptions and the other person's paradigms first, then that person, the other person, might be much more willing to to spend some time learning about us and our perceptions and our paradigms. We will talk about these issues constantly as we go through the material this semester. Grading issues for the class. The class is graded on a 1,000-point scale. Your attendance is worth 200 points. Attendance is extremely important for this class. The class will be taught in a seminar format, meaning it will not be lecture driven by me. It will be driven by the students. It will be driven by your reading material for the prior week, by your own experiences, by your workbook material, and the other material that we review online. I have a great level of expectation for not only myself, but also the students involved in this course, that we can operate the course at an extremely high level and even sometimes have some appropriate academic discourse and conversation about what certain topics mean, and if those topics are actually applicable to daily living. The 7 Habits book and the workbook assignments is worth 300 points. There will be additional online components in terms of assignments to watch and to process out. Those are worth 100 points. The class participation, class discussions is worth 200 points, and we have a end of semester reflection paper worth 200 points. All those being equal to 1,000 points. Keep in mind, the workbook assignment includes the actual submission of your workbook near the end of the semester. So I will want to be able to take a chance to browse through your workbook and see the progress you've made. And as always, uh, material submitted to me is confidential in nature, and I will not release that information to anyone without your prior written consent. Um, so you can trust that any comments made in the workbook or the papers or other assignments, especially if they're personal in nature or not personal in nature, will not be released without prior written approval. The institutional grading scale is included, as well as please take time to review the academic integrity policies, especially related to plagiarism and using someone else's work as your own. If you're a student covered under American with Disabilities procedures or policies, please make sure that you have contacted the ADA office, and the syllabus will provide instructions for that activity. And the remaining parts of the syllabus is really basic institutional information that we can talk more about in person if you have questions about. But I just wanted to provide a really quick overview for the syllabus itself.